Hello and welcome to Beachview, our podcast about different things, indoor stuff.
Hello, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about lyrics.
Yes, specifically how in the past you couldn't look up lyrics, which is I think something a lot of people take for granted today. It's
Yeah.
if you listen to a song on the radio or whatever, you can just go look it up. But back in the day, you often didn't know the lyrics to songs.
Yeah, I've seen online or occasionally heard somebody ask what did you do before we had the internet? And how did you look up lyrics? Because it's so easy now. And the answer is we all sang everything all wrong.
Yeah. Although I don't see this brought up too often, even though, you will see, old people on the internet
Every once in a while. Yes.
Yeah, lived
exactly.
before lyrics websites were commonplace.
Yes. Yeah. So you got to think about, I want to say, the internet wasn't, super popular in homes,
No.
at least where I lived, until, the late 90s. So all the decades before that, how did people even know what the heck they were saying?
Yeah, which often they didn't. They just kind of...
Yeah. Still to this day, sometimes I'll hear an old song and realize, oh, I was singing that wrong when I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, as an elder millennial, we did, me and my friends used to, okay, so cassettes were, big for when I was a kid, little kid. And we would, tape songs off of the radio. We would record them on a cassette. And then we would, rewind, play, until we thought we understood what the lyrics were. But as far as, having, the actual lyrics, I feel like some cassettes had, a little booklet in it with lyrics, a fold-out card kind of thing with lyrics in it, but not all of them did.
Yeah, CDs later on did, too,
Yes.
would sometimes have little album booklets that would have lyrics, but not all the time.
But
and that's assuming
always.
You had the album and weren't just listening to it on the radio.
Yes, exactly. So, it became more and more popular. And, of course, a vinyl, I'm assuming... Well, back in the day, vinyls didn't have lyrics, though, right?
I don't know. I don't know if they came with booklets or not. I know they do now, but...
Yeah, I don't feel like they did. I'm thinking, even, 70s and 80s. Did they have lyric booklets? I have no idea.
They might have.
We need to ask someone even older than me.
Yeah, that's before both of our time.
What the heck they did. But yeah, it was you really didn't know what you're doing. And I'm trying to remember if I've talked about before, I used to watch MTV and stuff a lot. I don't even think they had the lyrics on there.
Not even with closed captioning?
I guess you could with closed captioning, but it wasn't official lyrics. But
yeah.
I wasn't doing closed captioning then, so, But yeah, it was just I remember going to do karaoke one time. This was when I was a kid. So somebody had a karaoke machine thing at some event or something. It wasn't a karaoke bar or anything. And seeing the lyrics pop up on the screen, and I was like, what? I didn't know that's what they were saying. So yeah.
Wow, that was a way to get lyrics, those karaoke machines, if you had one near you.
Yeah, get your lyrics, but only certain songs.
Right.
But yeah, just thought that was interesting because now I look up stuff all the time. I'm like, what? Or even normally I consume my music on Spotify, and while the song's playing, I always look for the lyrics. But again, not every song has lyrics, so I'm still what the heck are they saying? But some songs are clear, some are not.
Most these days do.
Yeah.
If you look up online, you'll find someone, even if it's not official, but especially there's some artists that have very muddy vocal delivery, or put a lot of vocal effects on, or they just went through something really fast.
Yes.
So it wasn't always clear what people were saying.
Yeah, I really feel the thing that people did was just listen to the song over and over until they figured out the lyrics.
Yeah, and even then they might have misheard it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just interesting to me, especially because when I started really listening to music, there were lyrics websites, but they were still often wrong. Like, I think these days they're mostly correct. And I feel like most, like, artists and labels will put stuff up themselves, rather than relying on people to just randomly put on the internet. But, like, I remember, like, even as late as, like, the 2010s, you would sometimes go on lyrics websites, and they would have, like, two different websites would have two different lines written for a song.
Yeah, and you're like, which one is it? And, like, this is back in, like, I would say early 2000s when I would try to, like, look up lyrics. Like, half the time you would click on, like, a lyrics website, and it would be, like, you know, some, like, crazy pop-up, like, ad thing, you know, like, and you're like, oh my god, did I just put, like, a virus on a computer? Because that was, like, a huge thing back then, when we would download songs from the internet and then try to go look at the lyrics. Like, we were messing up our home computers. So yeah, like, you still didn't have, like, a good thing. Like, I did, like, look up briefly, like, how do people get lyrics? And, like, you know, I'm talking about, like, way back. And some of them, like, one of the answers was, like, oh, they used to have, like, music magazines would, like, publish some lyrics to some songs.
Oh, huh.
And so I was like, what? I didn't know that. Yeah, so that's interesting. But, like, what songs? Like,
right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and, like, would it be, like, one song a month?
And that's assuming you got the magazine, you know?
Exactly, yeah. So it's, like, it wasn't readily available to everyone, but yeah, I mean, there definitely, I remember, like, a song from high school was, like, a really popular song that I would sing, and, like, it wasn't until, like, years later when, like, someone else sang it, I was like, oh, I sang that wrong the whole entire time. And it was, like, such a popular song, and now it's like, why did I think it said that? But, it's just funny because, like, you really would just guess at everything.
Yep.
Which I think is fun. But I guess frustrating when you're really trying to hear what they're saying.
Yeah, and, yeah, something, like, again, I brought up, I don't think it gets talked about much, but that is, like, a fairly big paradigm shift from, like, listening to music, back then compared to now.
Yeah.
Is that, like, you know, you can be fairly confident that you know, the lyrics to a song.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is a funny story that just came up, like, last week. And it was this, it was at work. There was this video, and it was just more like, it was like a, like, architecture, like, rendering video, like, just showing people, like, plans for this construction. And it was going to be shown to, like, a big audience of, like, an internal audience. And we had, like, the architect had put, like, music, you know, on the video, and some of the people, like, didn't like the music. They wanted something more upbeat. It sounded like, you know, on hold music. So they're like, no, let's do something else. Well, one of the people, like, one of the execs was like, oh, like, let's do, like, a Bridgerton type of song. Like, you know how, I don't know if you've ever seen Bridgerton.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, so they play a lot of instrumental songs that, it's just instrumental, like, kind of orchestral, I guess. Like, popular songs, but done in that way. So you're always like, oh, that song sounds really familiar. Like, what is that? You know? Because no lyrics, nothing. So, this guy was like, let's do, like, oh, what about this song? This sounds really good. It was like from a Bridgerton, like, soundtrack or something. I don't even know. Anyways, so somebody, okay, copyright stuff aside, because that's a whole other issue.
Right, yeah.
That I had to get it. I was like, no, we really shouldn't be using that. Somebody downloaded, like, the MP3 and sent it to the architect to put against this video, okay? And so one of the ladies calls me and she's like, I need to talk to you about this. So she's like, listen to this song. And I was like, that sounds, you know, again, it's like orchestral, like instrumental only. And I'm like, sounds really familiar, but I can't place it. And then she's like, well, the architect sent me these lyrics. This is what the actual song is. And because, like, he had the lyrics, like, and, you know, we didn't. And it was that song A B C D E F U.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so, like, half the song is like F you and your mom and your whatever, you know, like, it's like, you know, a funny song. I don't want to say funny, I guess, but anyways. And we're like, okay, we can't put this on because too many people would recognize it and know the lyrics.
People would know.
Yeah, and so we're just like, absolutely not. Like, it's like a professional thing. Like, you cannot have that song on there. So it was just like a funny little thing because, like, we didn't know what it was. And then like obvious. I was like, oh yeah, that's what song that is. So anyway, this is an example of why knowing the lyrics is very important. And it was kind of hilarious to me because I was like, I would have cracked up if you would have used that song and everybody would have been like, what?
Yeah. Isn't that song popular or was popular on TikTok? Like, yes. I feel like people would know.
It was very popular. And you know me, like, I'm not great at, like, placing stuff sometimes. Because I was like, wait, I know this song.
I would have recognized that, I bet.
Yeah, you probably would have right away. But, like, I was like, this sounds so familiar. What song is this? And, like, I couldn't place it. Now, granted, I only heard it the one time she played it for me. Like, so I wasn't sitting there, like, really thinking on it. But it was just hilarious. Because, like, lyrics make a difference. Like, so I was like, absolutely not. We cannot use that.
Yeah. You know, I was gonna say, like, a consequence of this, but, I found out this still happens, is, on early YouTube, it was, like, a big genre video to, like, deliberately mishear lyrics.
Yes.
That was, like, people would, like, put lyric videos with, like, deliberately fake lyrics because they sounded funny.
Exactly.
But apparently people still do that. I just looked it up on YouTube, so I was like, oh,
well. I came across it a couple times when I was, like, looking up a song. And I think that's still funny because you're like, you know, people take the time to do that. But it's, and then there was a really popular, like, TV commercial. I forgot what song it was. Was it, like, Pour Some Sugar on Me? That they were, like, singing in the car. And the guy was saying, like, pour some shook up ramen. And
what?
Anyway.
What are you talking about?
It was a very popular commercial, like, a while back.
I try my best not to watch those.
Well, I think it was like, I don't remember how it got that popular, but it was popular. But the guy was singing like, pour some sugar on me. And he was singing, pour some shook up ramen. Like, he thought that was the words. And like, the girl was like, that's not what they're saying. But I always think of that.
I hate commercials.
No, it was funny. I don't even remember what the commercial was for, but it was funny because I was like, that's accurate. Like, to how people misinterpret things, so.
Yeah, that is. But I don't think any commercials are funny.
Oh, commercials are funny.
No.
Anyway.
Although, you know, that having been said, there, you know, a lot of people don't listen to lyrics anyways. It's not like, I mean, I suppose you have, like, Taylor Swift fans who are obsessive over them. And, you know, you have certain fan bases and that. But, like, I think a lot of people just don't really care. Like, I remember, Pumped Up Kicks, you know, when that came out in an era when, you know, you could easily look up lyrics. Like, that's the iPhone era. And for years and years, people didn't know what that song was about. Like, I'm sure you, like, play that for some people, they still wouldn't know.
I probably wouldn't know.
What, you don't know what Pumped Up Kicks is about?
No.
It's about a school shooting, what?
Oh, I'd have to hear it. Like, I can't think of what song that is.
The chorus, all the other kids with the pump up kicks better run.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yes.
The school shooter song?
Yes, okay. School shooter song, yeah. Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that. See, I have problems placing things. I will say, like, before I went to the Taylor Swift concert, I was, like, listening to some of her older stuff, because, like, I was a later fan. And I was, like, looking at the lyrics because, you know, like, when you go to a concert, like, everybody's singing. And you don't want to be the only one, like, not singing. So I was like, let me get these lyrics. So, yeah. Yeah, because I also, you know, I'm not that quick on the come up with music. And, like, I'm always like, what? Like, I will be singing stuff wrong the whole time. And, like, people don't correct me, so.
Well, you at the Taylor Swift concert with your phone on, like, trying to find the song so you could sing along?
I should have. Definitely should have. No, there were some times when, like, Brenda was, like, taking a little video and she would, like, put it on me, like, turn her phone toward me, like, when they're singing, you know, everybody's singing this part of the song, and I'm just like, yeah! I don't know the words. I'm just trying to fit in. Yeah. So, I mean, you know. But it used to be fun, though. I mean, like, we really would spend our time. Like, I just remember, like, sitting in the driveway, like, with neighborhood friends, like, recording songs from the radio, and then, like, trying to figure out what the lyrics were.
Yeah. And you can't do that anymore. You just look it up.
Yeah, can't do it. You can't sit in a driveway and record cassettes.
I mean, you could, but why would you want to? You'd also have to find, like, the technology to do that. Yeah. I'm sure cassettes aren't hard to find, but, like, a radio that records like that, you probably gotta go dig through a thrift store.
You also have to, like, actually hang out with your neighbors, so...
Yeah, in the driveway, too.
Sitting in the driveway.
Well, at least move to the grass.
I need some cushion, yeah. Exactly. Alright, anything else about lyrics?
Yeah, I guess not. I do think that is interesting, though.
Yeah.
And not talked about much.
Yeah, like I said, only every once in a while I'll see, like, you know, on some, like, Reddit or something, like, how do people look up lyrics? Or, like, how do people know lyrics back then, you know?
Yeah, they just didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. We're not even getting to, like, old stuff, but, you know, like, really old. But, yeah, just interesting how accessible things are now.
Yep.
Yep. All right, so speaking of music, so you and I approach albums very differently, wouldn't you say?
Yes. That's come up a few times in our album discussions, but I prefer to take a more, like, close reading, I guess you'd call it, like trying to look at, like, the work itself, and you like having all the, like, outside context, like who Taylor was dating at the time, who the song was about, you know, which X is the song about, that sort of thing.
Yes, and speaking of, like, having the interwebs at our fingertips, that to me is all I do. Now, I won't do that for every album, but I really do like to know the context. And I find, like, when we're doing our album reviews, I really do, like, get into the lyrics because I'm always like, oh, I really love this lyric. And I, like, really, like, try to dissect the song and, like, what it means. Or, like, what it means to me, or, like, what feeling they're trying to convey by looking at the lyrics. So, like, when I'm listening, I'm always, like, trying to look at the lyrics at the same time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I do that if it's an album I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
But, like, I'll look over the lyrics if it's an album I'm familiar with, but, you know, just kind of, like, take it as it lies, I guess. And I don't like to, like, you know, like I said, bring in that outside context as much. I prefer, like, just what's written on the, for lyrics, what's, like, written, you know, on the page there, or, like what's on the, there musically, instead of, like, oh, well, this was when, you know, the lead singer went through a breakup, and so, you know, you really feel that, like, in the emotion of the song, whereas I'm like, oh, they went through a breakup, like...
No, I love, like, music as therapy, or, like, music as, like, conveying a point in your life, like, so I really like, when I'm doing an album, looking up, like, interviews from the bandmates, like, what was happening during that time. I think, though, like, celebrity culture really plays into this, or I should say, like, I guess, like, celebrity news culture plays into this a lot, because, like, on Instagram or whatever, like, you're constantly seeing, like, you know, when a celebrity couple breaks up, or and so that, I feel like it kind of feeds that, like, want for me to know what's going on. But, you know, a lot of these bands aren't, like, in the celebrity news arena now, but, like, I still want to know, like, what was going on when they wrote this? Like, what is the meaning? Like, I love having the context, because it's, like, a whole story. It's not just, like, a pleasant song that I like to listen to. Like, I'm like, what's the story behind this? Like, why did they perform this? Why did they write this? Like, especially if it's, like, an angsty song, I'm like, what happened to you? Like, what's going on there, you know? So, I don't know. I really like getting the context. I love reading interviews from the artists themselves, not from, like, you know, just speculation, even though I will consume that too.
Yeah, as a Swiftie.
Yes. And I will say, particularly with Taylor Swift, her fandom, I feel like, really, like, pushes that.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. And I don't think that she does, because a lot of times she doesn't comment on, like, particular songs or whatever, and, like, what they really meant or who it's really about. but the fandom does, and I just gobble it up. Like, I love it.
Yeah, I think especially for pop stars, that is like one of the ways to read the music. Like I think for a while now that's been popular for like your biggest pop stars is like trying to look at the celebrity and sort of the celebrity news cycle to discern like what the song's about.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I think like people have been doing this for years where they're channeling their emotions through their art, right? And I love it. So I really hate when you see stuff like online or people saying like, "Oh, she just went through a breakup. Here's another album. Like, get ready to be roasted," I don't like that because I feel like people have been doing that for years.
Yeah, but also Taylor Swift does kind of if we're talking about Taylor Swift specifically.
Yeah.
She does kind of follow that pattern.
She does, and I'm here for it. Like, I love a good angsty album. But yeah, no, just especially like older albums, like when you and I like listen to, like when we listen to Death Cab for Cutie and the older albums, like I'm still going back and like looking up like information about the band and like, any interviews I can find. Like, I don't know, I just really enjoy that. And I think that's why, I've talked before about like how I used to love watching pop-up video on VH1. Because it would be like little fun facts. Like, I want to know, where'd you film the music video? Like, who was the producer? Like, I don't know. I like details.
Yeah, and that's usually not my preferred approach. With the Death Cab for Cutie stuff, I like reading it sort of in the scope of their career. There's like, how was this album different than their last one, their last few? Like, I think that as context, I like that.
Like, how it evolves.
Yeah, I don't particularly like going too far outside of like what is in the album itself. I just prefer to keep it limited to that.
I feel like it's probably, like I'm a reader. I love to read. I love, stories. So I think it's probably like one of those things like I want like the story behind it. But another thing that we do differently when we approach albums. First of all, like I don't always listen to like an entire album. Like I will, like if it's just like a random, thing, like if I hear like an artist I like has a new album, I'm like, oh, I gotta listen to that album. And then like I'll go like months before I actually like listen to any of their, like I'll hear the singles that are popular or something, but like I'll go months without actually listening to the album. When I do listen, it's like kind of here and there. Like I'm not like sitting and listening to the whole thing all at once. And I think you do,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
That's sacrilege to me. If you're going to listen to an album, you're going to sit down and listen to the whole damn thing. None of this, like, pick up in the middle of it and then come back, like, 2 days later.
Now, I have been more recently doing full sit-downs, like, listening to the whole album. However, like, do you listen to it more than once?
What, like in
right
a row?
off the bat? Yeah.
Not in a row. I won't listen to it more than once in a day.
Okay, because, like, I will listen to it more than once because, like, for me, the first listen is just, like, preliminary. Like, I'm just, like, gauging, like, oh, do I like this or not, right? And then I listen again, and this is probably why I'm, like, spotty with the albums. I'm not, because I'm, like, I don't have time to sit there and listen to an album, like, twice in a row. But I'll listen again, and then I'm, like, looking up context. What is it? I'm, like, Googling. What does this song mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm doing all the research and, like, listening again. And usually, like, first listen, there's a couple songs, like, I'm like, it's okay. By the time I listen to that song 5 times, I'm like, hey, I like this song.
Yeah.
So that's how I consume it. And then I get stuck on, like, a loop where I'm just listening to that album and nothing else.
I can't do that.
No, I really think I have like undiagnosed ADHD sometimes because I get this like hyper focus.
I believe that is a thing people with ADHD do is listen to music on loop. So
yes, I'm pretty sure like there are several, TikTok diagnosed me. There are several things that I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have this. But anyway, like yeah, I'm still listening to the Tortured Poets Department, like And I have to make myself like stop listening to that album, go listen to something else because you're gonna get so tired of it. Like So I have to like do like a palate cleanse and then I still go back to it. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I never used to do that. But, you know, we also consume music differently. You know, like when I was buying my first CDs, I was, you know, we would listen to it. Now, I did have a friend who would like make me listen to the same music on repeat all the time. And I would be like, stop.
Yeah.
But I guess it's different when you do it to yourself, right?
I don't know. I can't stand that. No matter what the, I can't listen to, like, the same song more than once a day, even.
Wow. I'll be, like, in my car, and if I didn't pay enough attention to the song when it was on, I'll just repeat it.
Oh, yeah. No,
like,
if that happens to me, I'm like, well. Yet,
the funniest thing is, I still don't know, like, lyrics, or, like, if you say a name of a song, I'm like, what song is that? Like, so something's not getting retained there in this little brain. But
oh, yeah, you didn't know Pumped Up Kid.
Yeah, I had to think I was like, oh yeah, and I have to like play it in my head for a second. Oh yeah, like I know that song. But no, I just think it's interesting how like we approach music very differently. And I don't think it has to do with like age. I think it has to do with more like personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like just how we do it. But the funny thing is though, I've talked about like I don't have a record player and I'm like, I kind of want to get one, but then I'm like, I don't know that I would like use it. But then sometimes I think like if I'm listening to songs over and over, I feel like I would use a record player because I would just like keep putting the same record on. So I don't know.
Yep. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I got introduced to Death of the Author at a young age, and I'm like, that's it. That's the literary criticism paradigm for me.
Oh, you want to get in? Like, you want to explain that?
Oh, no, we've already talked about it a bit on the podcast. But
okay, I gotcha.
A whole complicated literary theory thing, but essentially, authorial intent isn't what matters. It's ultimately about audience interpretation.
Yeah.
And it's basically, yeah, like mode of literary criticism that wants to look at the work itself often and not the author.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's different for music for me. Because to me, like, you know how I say, like, I want to have, like, a real life soundtrack. And so to me, like, I want music that, like, goes with my emotions or, like, current events that I'm, you know what I mean? Like,
right, but, that doesn't necessarily mean that the author, like,
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I will say, fandoms make a lot of assumptions, right?
Yeah.
And if it in the least little bit like fits the song, I'm like, yeah, I could see that. You know, I totally just eat it all up. I don't know, but I think I just like the story behind it. But it's funny because with like artwork, like paintings and stuff, like drawings, paintings, like that kind of art, like I'm like, well, how do you know what the author's, not the author, but the artist was feeling when they did this? Like, it used to make me so angry, like, going to, like, art museums and people saying, like, oh, the artist was this and this. I'm like, how do you know that? Like, what if they just put this on a canvas and called it a day? Like, so I don't know why I don't approach art that way, like, but I approach music that way.
Right, I think the appropriate way to do that is to say the art is this and this, regardless of, like, what the artist might have felt or meant. Especially because sometimes, art or music hits you that way. There's plenty of people for whom any given song's a breakup song because they were a teenager going through a big breakup when that song came out, even if the song has nothing to do with breakups.
Correct. Yeah.
That's just like how people sort of listen to music.
Right. Yeah, you consume it in a much different way.
Yeah, especially I feel like a lot of popular music, and I feel like that's the strength of a lot of popular music, is that it can be so broad, that, like, there's not a ton of space in the sort of pop verse, chorus, verse structure to convey, like, a complex story or message. Some artists do manage that and use different structures and stuff, but a lot of times it's more of a feeling than a, like, specific narrative, and I feel like that's very useful for, getting a broad, like, picture there.
For sure.
And, I feel like that doesn't necessarily need, like, the artist meant this as a breakup song or whatever,
Yeah.
It can just feel sad during the right moment, or cathartic, or, triumphant, and you want to, like, have something to pick you up during a breakup or whatever.
I mean, you could have even, like, watched a movie that was sad, and you decide to, like, put that into, a song, and people are like, oh, this person went through this, and it's like, no, just they wanted to convey that emotion,
Yeah, from the movie, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much context that we don't know, but I don't know. I guess it's just more entertaining to me to, like, fill in the blanks.
Yeah, but yeah, that the fact that it's hard to know context, you can get stuff wrong on, like, fandom makes a lot of assumptions. That's part of why I tend to stay away from it,
But I do like when artists, like, do interviews and they're like, yeah, actually, this was with this song. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want to know. Tell me. They're probably lying.
I mean, I doubt that, but, I don't necessarily know how an artist felt about it. And, sometimes they could change their mind. Like, maybe when they were writing it, they were feeling one thing, but after performing it on tour for however long, it means something different to them now.
Yeah, that's true.
And, but I do know how I feel about a song, so I can always say that,
Yeah, yeah. I get that. I don't know. I like to just find deeper meaning, I guess.
I mean, that
Whether
is
it's
deeper
made up
meaning,
or not.
That's, I feel like the song's about this is, it can be a deeper meaning.
Deeper meaning for you. Yeah, exactly. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Interesting, though.
And to me, all of Taylor Swift's new album has, the
emotional
maturity of a teenager.
Stop it. That is not true.
It is.
No.
It's too long. It's unfocused. Like, it feels like the kind of stuff a teenager would write, and she's like a 30-something-year-old woman.
Oh, who cares?
With more money than the entire countries. Like,
I'm not talking about that context. No. I have, like, listened to that newest album again, like, taking your perspective, into consideration, and, like, listening again, and I'm like, no, like, there's a lot of songs on that album that I really like, and like I said, like, I'm still listening to it, every once in a while, and, like, I like the songs. But yeah, anyway.
I talked about that damn album again. It is relevant, though, for this discussion, because that is...
It is relevant, yes. And I definitely think it's interesting that we can both listen to the same music, approach it in totally different ways, relate to it in different ways, but still, like, appreciate, well, in your case, not appreciate it, no. It's just interesting to me,
Yeah, but that's definitely, like, a place where I, because, that is, like, I think the default way, at least her fans approach her work, and I don't care. I don't care, like, what boyfriend this is about, like, they sound like they suck.
Feel like it makes
She's probably right about them, but, like, if the music ain't there for me, it ain't there for me.
Aw, okay. Well, I like to get the whole soap opera story.
Yeah, it is. That's a fair description.
But I love, like, I want background, I want details. Even when somebody's telling a story, like, I'm like, they'll be like, long story short, and I'm like, no, give me the long version. I want the context. Like, I'm always like, they'll be like, I said this, and I'm like, and then what did they say? And then what did you say? Like, I want the whole conversation, all the context. You went to a restaurant, what were you eating? So I think it's just my personality. Like,
yeah,
I just want to know. I have a curiosity. Tell me a story and make it colorful.
Yeah, which, there's a lot of material there for any, like, really popular artist that's in the spotlight like that to go through that,
Oh, yeah. I wonder if the artists care that people dissect their music so much.
I mean, I think Taylor Swift's made it a part of her, like, brand identity, so...
Yeah. I think it's part of what makes it popular, too, because people are trying to guess.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, you have anything else about our approach to albums?
Yeah, that's, I think that's everything.
All right, well, This has been Beach View, our podcast about all sorts of things and stuff. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.